All right. Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Grounds Fridays for I guess it's our Halloween special, because we got special guest Jason Carl from the World of Darkness.
Hello. Hi, Bryce.
Hello. It's good to finally meet you. I've been a fan since the LA by Night streams. So
thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate that. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So I think first, you want to introduce yourself and just tell people what you do.
Of course. Sure. I'm Jason Carl. I'm the brand marketing manager for the World of Darkness, which includes many of our favorite tabletop role-playing games like Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and Hunter the Reckoning. I've been involved in games, tabletop games, almost all of my adult life. I have worked at Wizards of the Coast on Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. I've worked at Xbox for a very long time. I've been in games marketing for a very long time. And the World of Darkness, though, has always been, I think, my first forever home.
Yeah. So I think just first off, you wanna tell us what sets World of Darkness, I guess as a setting, but also as a overall game system, because all of the games kind of follow the same set of overall rules. Like what makes it unique? What makes the World of Darkness the World of Darkness?
What makes it unique is several things. Number one, you're the monster. Your character is the monster in the setting, or you are one of many monsters, depending on what exactly you have chosen to play. You are in the role of the monstrous creature rather than hunting the creature or opposing the creature. It's you who've taken on this key role as the monstrous protagonist in the World of Darkness. And that is, I think it's hard to overstate how revolutionary an idea that was in role-playing games when it first appeared. It's now something we see in a number of different very cool role-playing games. But World of Darkness, I think, rightfully can claim to have done it first, and it's still the key feature of our role-playing games. Another thing that sets it apart is that because you're the monster, your character is the monster, there is an immediate automatic tension between your monstrous nature, whatever it happens to be, and the rest of the world. And it's that tension where we get the role-playing drama. And then finally, the World of Darkness is an entire world. In fact, it's this world, our world, the world we're sitting in right now, but with a layer of supernatural spread out on top of it, in which vampires, werewolves, ghosts, mages are all real. There are a number of very secret organizations and societies and creature types in the World of Darkness, all operating just beyond visible sight of ordinary mortals. So that's three things, actually.
Yeah, there you go. I think it's, for me, it's specifically it being set in our world. I think that's what does it for me. It's so easy to visualize and get someone into it, right?
Well, sure. I mean, I really enjoy a lot of different kinds of role-playing games: fantasy, horror, science fiction, many different genres. The World of Darkness, I think people who are onboarding into the World of Darkness for the first time might have an easier journey because it is our real world. There's no reason to describe what a McDonald's is in great detail. We've all seen one. Many of us have been there. It's not necessary to describe what it's like to ride in an automobile or to use a mobile phone. We do those things every day. Now, add the supernatural layer on top of that to get something dramatically interesting and mysterious. Other role-playing games sometimes require a little bit more suspension of disbelief because they're set in very cool fantasy settings where the laws of physics are not as we know them. Magic exists. There are dragons. Cthulhu is lurking around somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, no, he actually is, though.
I mean, these days it would not surprise me.
Yep, it would be, honestly, it'd be par for the course if that was the story tomorrow.
I think so.
First off, I want to say, love your mug. Big fan of good coffee mugs. So
it is of course the spooky season. So
it is.
One wishes to be on brand.
Of course. I think next I'd like to transition us a little more specific into the individual games. There are 3 World of Darkness games that are currently in the 5th edition, Hunter, Vampire, and Werewolf. So I think what sets each of those apart from each other?
Ooh, great question, Bryce. Ooh, that's nice. I see you've prepared here to give me a hard way to go. What sets them apart from one another? I think the obvious answer is the type of character that you play in each. Right, in Vampire the Masquerade, you are a kindred, an undead monster, a vampire. And in Werewolf the Apocalypse, you are one of the Garou, a shapeshifter, a lycanthrope, perhaps, depending on your point of view. And in Hunter the Reckoning, you are an ordinary mortal, but you are exposed to the realities of the world of darkness. You know that supernatural creatures exist, and you have decided to hunt them for various motivational reasons. So that sets them apart. But I think their core action loop maybe sets them apart too. Vampire the Masquerade is a game of a role-playing game of essentially street level undead politics, in which you need to deal with the fact that you are now outside the human nature. You thirst for mortal blood, and you are stuck in this situation with other kindred, other vampires who have their own agendas that may clash with yours. So it creates a really cool situation of intrigue horror. Mm-hmm. Werewolf the Apocalypse is very different in its focus. The Garou are the chosen of Gaia, the world spirit, the earth spirit. And it was their job to protect the earth spirit from a number of threats, in particular what they think of, a force call they think of as the worm, which is the opposite of life-giving energy. And the Garou are facing the reality that they've failed. I mean, just look at the world. The corporations have all but prevailed in their destruction of the environment for the sake of short-term profits. The world seems like a very difficult place. The Garou haven't done their job very well. Now it's time for them to decide what to do about it. Is there still hope? Yes. Okay. How do we capitalize on and leverage what hope is left? And if there is no hope, how do we take revenge against the forces that have injured our planet so badly? So super different focus from Vampire.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Under the Reckoning, you focus on getting rid of these supernatural menaces for a variety of different reasons. Maybe it's revenge. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's for profit. Who knows?
It's a role-playing game, though. Let's be real. A lot of it is going to come down to profit. We love our rewards.
Well, we do, and I'm very pleased with the fact that our wonderful writers were able to create one of the motivations you can select in Hunter the Reckoning is entrepreneurial. And so there are monster hunting businesses out there trying to make a profit on their knowledge and expertise in dealing with supernatural.
Oh, that's really fun.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I just see a comment in chat that I just want to address. It's best storyteller DMGM I've ever seen today. Fantastic world building, fantastic atmosphere, storytelling, fantastic emotional focus. Thanks for all you do, Jason. And I want to kind of take that and turn that into a question, and that is, what storyteller game mastering tips do you have for people specifically looking to get into World of Darkness? What would you recommend new storytellers do?
I get asked this question quite frequently, and I try to make the answers useful. First, let me thank whoever said that. Let me thank them again, because I don't think anything matters to storytellers more than knowing that what we do entertains and inspires other people. The highest compliment that you can give us, apart from just spending some time with what we've created, is feeling inspired to create and share them with the world. So if anything I've ever done inspires anybody else to try to tell stories, I'm super grateful. The answer to the question, though, depends so much on your individual preferences that I'm just going to try to be really general in my answer.
Okay.
I should probably write a book about this, right?
I think so. I think that would be a really good book to get out there. I would buy it.
Or maybe, I don't know, maybe some TikTok videos. I don't know. Depends. We have the patience to read the book. I don't know. I'm not sure I have the patience to write it. First of all, don't panic. You already know what to do. Second, don't over-prepare. Prepare just enough to get the game moving in a fun direction, and then you and your players can collaborate on what comes next. And third, and arguably the most important, talk with your players. Sit down before you begin, before anybody rolls those 10-sided dice, before you create characters, ideally, and talk about what kind of game do we want to make together. Is this a game of, John Wick level action in the darkened streets of Prague? Is this a game of a cat and mouse with monsters helping an oil company across the frozen tundra of Alaska? Is this an urban adventure? Is it more of mystery and intrigue? Is it magical exploration? Is it a morality play? Talk about the themes you want to hit together, what kind of stories you're taking inspiration from, and use that to build it out. And then fourth, don't feel that you have to read every book or know all the lore to start. You don't. Keep your focus really, really narrow. Pick a street, pick a neighborhood, pick a small section of your city. Only worry about what you need to know for that first game session and make it fun for each other. And I think finally, don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all do. I still make mistakes. Every time I run a game, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of every rule. I have to stop and look things up, or I will get a rule wrong, and I'll go back and reread it and realize, I haven't done that properly. Those really aren't the important things here. It's having fun at the table safely with your friends that's the important stuff. I don't know if that was very helpful for people who just want to get started, but
no, I think it was good. I like I really like not over preparing as a tip, because we all do, and I do it all the time. I will try to prep out every single scenario, and then none of those scenarios I prepped for are what happens.
Here's I'll share some common wisdom I think is popular among very good game masters these days, regardless of the system that you're running. Mm-hmm. And that is, if you're going to prepare, if you're going to spend time preparing, that's good. But in addition to not over preparing, prepare to improvise. In other words, make notes about what you need to know that will help you improvise in the moment when things don't go the way you planned, as you mentioned, Bryce.
Yeah.
For me, that's identifying the key NPCs, knowing what they want, knowing what they'll do to get it, and what lines they've told themselves they won't cross in their actions to get those things. If I know that for each of the key NPCs, I've got a night's worth of drama all ready to go. And if I just put it in bullet point form, I generally have enough to improvise. I think that's really all you need to get started. You can build on that layer by layer, game after game. Again, always in collaboration with your players.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. No, I think that was super helpful. As a game master myself, I'm always looking for tips from, the proverbial masters out there. And I think you easily qualify as one of them.
Really? I don't think I would go that far, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I think knowing motivations for key characters in the story is really important, and then compare those motivations to what your characters want. Mm-hmm. So if one of your characters is a vampire who is determined to become a prince of the city as a long-term goal, make sure there's an NPC out there who doesn't want that to happen, know why they want to prevent it, and know what they're willing to do in order to thwart that ambition.
Yeah.
And if you do this, ideally, you come up with, I'll call it proactive storytelling. I think for some starting GMs, the temptation is to be very reactive.
Mm-hmm. Players do this, so I do that.
Or here's the thing, the ancient Dark Lord is awakening from his 1,000-year-old slumber, and now the players, and he's destroyed the village, and now the players must react. The characters must react to whatever the big bad guy is doing. I would much rather rely on my players. I think it makes a better story, more fun for them if they're the proactive things in the story. So if they are pursuing their goals actively, they want to be prince, they want to steal a sports car, they want to destroy that oil rig out in the Gulf, they want to infiltrate the chemical factory and shut it down, they want to track the monster to its lair because they want to free their neighborhood from the influence of these ghosts. If they have active goals that they are pursuing, I think the story is a lot more satisfying than if they're just stuck reacting to whatever I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives the world like a feeling of still being alive, even if the players weren't there, right?
Oh, sure. I think that feeling of verisimilitude is really important, especially in a contemporary horror story like The World of Darkness. I think that you don't need to make every plot a world-ending apocalypse in order to have the stakes be meaningful. You can have very, very personal stakes and motivations, and in fact, I think that's probably more fun in a game like Vampire Werewolf or Hunter, for sure. And it makes the world feel alive. I think of my job as the storyteller really not as really the person telling the story. At best, I'm facilitating it. I'm there to help the story happen by helping the players pursue their goals, their characters' goals actively. And I'm there to interpret the World of Darkness. The World of Darkness wants some pretty awful things as a setting.
Yeah.
And my job is to interpret those things, create those situations for the player characters to act on. And again, ideally proactively and not reactively.
Yeah.
That was probably a longer answer than you wanted.
No, I think that was actually a perfect answer. Let's go with a little quick one. So this is something that since we were doing these releasing World of Darkness stuff here on Fantasy Grounds, all of us have been talking about it the past few weeks or whatever. And that is what vampire clan would you be a part of? Not necessarily which one do you like to play the most. Which one are you as a human? Which one are you as a person?
That's a different way to ask this question than I usually get. Most people ask me, "What's your favorite clan?"
I don't want to know your favorite. I want to know what I want to know what Jason is.
What am I? Despite what I would probably like to be. I'm probably a Toreador.
Okay.
I think I love the act of artistic creation.
Yeah.
And I appreciate creativity too much to be anything else. My medium, though, is the story. I don't know if tabletop role-playing games can be considered an art form.
It is. It absolutely is an art form.
But I like to think they can be, and I like to think the stories we create and share together at the table can also be a kind of artistic expression, or at least creative expression, maybe both. And I think that probably puts me firmly in the Toreador clan.
All right. Well,
that's really bad.
Which one would you like to be then? Because you said despite what you would like to be.
That's what your favorite clan is, right? My favorite clan has always been the Venture. I love to hate this clan, right? You love to hate these. You love to hate these guys. I love their story of noblesse oblige and fallen nobility. They're really good at what they do, which is organizing and leading kindred society. But they're such rotten individuals. They can't help it. their nature is to to lord it over other kindred, whether they should or not. And I find that tension in their nature really, really interesting. They lead because somebody has to, and they're really good at it, but at the same time, they're absolutely going to piss everybody off.
Yeah. I like it.
I also admire them with Songbird too. They scare the crap out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's funny. There's out of all of the people we keep asking this same question at our company and just people in my everyday life, there's a lot of Toreadors in the world.
I think the the craving for meaning through art and creativity is really real.
Yeah.
And especially when the world seems troubled.
Yeah.
Dark tales for dark times require some sort of hopeful counterpoint, and we often find that through art and creativity in our own lives.
Yeah. All right. We got a question in chat, but I'm going to need a couple more minutes to read through that. So let me ask you something else.
Okay.
In the meantime, while I filter through that to actually see what the question is asking. I guess just a really, really, really quick, simple one, which is another one that we've been asking a bit, and it's vampires or werewolves. Which do you prefer?
I mean,
that's a hard question for you.
I'm not sure that's a fair question. I love all my children of the night equally.
Oh, right? It's a good answer.
But I think there's something to admire in all of them. My personal favorite is, of course, the vampire. But that's a matter of personal preference and not necessarily a value judgment.
I'm not asking for a value judgment. I'm asking for a personal preference.
Yeah, I prefer the vampire. If I have to choose.
If I twist your arm and force you into choosing.
Somebody says you get to be a vampire or a werewolf and you have to choose right now, I'm going to go with the vampire.
All right. So the question is, COD introduced a Contagion campaign as a way to bring all the lines together, while World of Darkness has a stronger lore and narrative built into it than COD did. Have there been any discussions about a similar conceptual idea for a quote-unquote umbrella campaign for World of Darkness? Kind of a...
So I'm going to answer the question literally first. Yes, of course, it's something we've discussed and considered.
Yeah.
Do we have a concrete plan for doing that right now? No, we don't. It's not impossible, but it isn't. It certainly isn't on our agenda for the immediate future.
Yeah.
All right, so I answered the question literally. I hope that was okay.
No, I think a literal answer is the best answer for a question like that.
I think so. Let's just be honest and transparent. Yes, we've thought about it. No, we don't have a plan to do it yet.
Yeah.
But it sounds cool.
All right. There's another question in chat that I'm going to ask you, but it's going to be in 1 second because I got a similar question first. So you said that in your little intro, you said that the World of Darkness has always kind of been your home. What brought you to that? What made you realize that the World of Darkness was your home?
I think, and forgive me, anyone who's heard me talk about this before, because it's not the first time I've been asked the question, but I think it's important because moments that we feel define us are rare and few and far between in this life. You have to go back all the way to the first appearance of the World of Darkness in the early 1990s. Yes, I am that old. I'm far older than you think. It's very, very difficult today to understand the state of role-playing games at the time. I had been a Dungeons and Dragons player, since I was 13, loved it, still do. And I went to Gen Con in 1991, and Vampire the Masquerade was on sale there. I don't recall if it was the very first time. It might have been on sale at a smaller convention earlier that year, a month or two, a week or two earlier, but that was the first time it made a big appearance. And from the moment I saw it, from the moment I talked to the writers and flipped through the pages, I realized, oh, these are stories that resonate with me. They're stories that are very literary, which I liked. They have a sort of a dark academia vibe, which I am all about. And they are character and narrative first, and not rules first. The rules, I mean, didn't really make any sense. It's like, okay, that sounds whatever. But that wasn't the important part. The important part is you got to play a vampire. And the idea that you were a vampire was absolutely revolutionary, right? That was not a thing in tabletop role playing at the time. And that combination of things I was already drawn to from a young age, and as a creator, all combined into one exciting story-driven package was it for me. I was doomed and hooked from that very moment, and still am, really.
Yeah. I think obviously I was like just barely born around the time that World of Darkness came out, 95, but I think that the late 90s was the absolute perfect point in history for something like the World of Darkness to be created, in my opinion, because whenever I think about Vampire the Masquerade or anything, I think about like the late 90s and early 2000s as like its default setting, even though it's really not. That's just how my brain puts that together.
No, it's definitely not the default setting. It appeared in the very early 90s, 1991.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that Vampire especially, but all the World of Darkness was, and still is in many ways, a reaction to, what was going on in the world at the time. And it still is today.
Yeah.
The themes of the World of Darkness resonate very deeply, as deeply, I think, now as they did then. There's always this intertension in ourselves and between us and the world. The search for meaning is very, very important. How do you define what makes a good life? And if things aren't going well, what are you going to do about it? The desire to change the status quo, I think, is intrinsic to the World of Darkness games then and now.
Yeah.
Vampire presumes the default vampire story is that you're a fledgling, a young vampire, stuck in this situation whether you wanted it or not, and now you've got to do something about it. And there's a terrible tension between the young vampires and the established elder vampires that really run the show. In Werewolf, you're stuck in a status quo that nobody wants. It's kind of up to you to do something about it, even if it's too late. Same with the Hunters. The Hunters don't want monsters to stalk and injure people. They don't want their world, their neighborhoods to be targeted by these terrible creatures from beyond the edge of the normal physical world. So they're going to do something about it. And that desire to do something about it, to try to change the status quo, to shake up the system, even if you don't have a good plan for what comes next.
Yeah.
It was really important in the World of Darkness when it was launched, and it's still important to us today. Again, another long answer.
Yeah, no, but it was a good long answer. And I think questions. What was that? Sorry.
It's your fault for asking me these great questions.
Yeah, I think you're giving great answers. So, but what I like, or that thing you, oh man, my brain is like that. I'm still chewing on that answer. I think that's what sets for me World of Darkness apart. Is it's all very relatable as a setting.
Sure.
Vampire, it's very relatable to whether you're still a teenager in high school or you're in your 20s, but or older, but it like you can still go back to that point in time in your brain and remember what it was like to be like a young adult, and now you have to make something in the world, and that's very similar to being a young vampire, and you have to deal with, great, now I'm in this really terrible situation with terrible people around me, but what am I going to do about it?
Vampire is very much a game of personal horror. You're stuck in this new situation that's scary and terrifying. You're afraid of what you might do. You're going to go out and hunt for blood. That's not a nice thing to do. But if you don't do it, your hunger will drive you to do even worse things, which creates, of course, the conundrum for Vampire. A beast I am, must a beast I become.
Yeah.
But it's also a game of political horror. There are other stronger vampires out there who are well entrenched and established. They have all the power and influence, and they're not going to make your life easy. So do you go along with it, or do you fight them? Do you oppose them in some way? And what are the consequences for those choices?
Yeah. And then pulling us back, I mentioned that there was a question that I was going to ask you related to what got you into the world of darkness, and that is, Jason, what got you into role-playing games?
Ooh, that's super easy. I was in, I think, junior high school.
Yeah.
My memories. I'm not like 109 years old, and my memory's a little hazy about this stuff. Once you hit 100, it gets tougher. In junior high school, it was a complete accident. I saw a person that I didn't even know walking through the school corridors where the Dungeons and Dragons player's handbook. I think it was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, AD&D, the one with the great weird Dave Trampier cover. And I pointed at it and said, "Is that a novel? It looks like maybe Tolkien or something." So I'd read The Hobbit recently, and so I was hyper alert for fantasy literature. And they said, "No, this is a role playing game. My parents bought it for me. You want to play?" And that was it. Right, that one act of generosity from a stranger I didn't even know at school, inviting me to try to figure this weird game out with them, started me down a lifelong fascination with the game format.
Yeah,
I was growing up in rural Maine.
Okay.
And at the time, as you can imagine, there was not a lot to do.
Yeah.
In rural Maine, you could go, hang outside Stephen King's house and hope he would come out and, wave at you. But that's about it, really.
Well, honestly, that sounds fun. I wish that I had the opportunity to do that.
He didn't show up very often.
I would imagine he would hide in his house and be like, "I'm not going outside. There are like 30 kids out there waiting for me to step outside."
I sure would. Role-playing games made a big impact when they first premiered. No one had ever seen anything like this before, and we had neither. The idea that you could create a story together, and that the rules were there pretty much as guidelines and not hard and fast policies was revolutionary to us. We spent all of our time doing this stuff. That for us was the main pastime in Maine at the in those years.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about that, saying that it's a novel concept to be able to like tell your own stories and with light rules, is that first off, like a lot of times, especially as like younger kids, like we're doing that already and not even realizing it in a lot of cases. Like just as people, we've always like done that. It was the specifically adding like rules and like a structure to it, and equally,
I think. Sorry, there's some ambient noise in the neighborhood. I hope that's not coming through.
No, I can't hear it. You're good.
Okay. Stories. Two things about that. Yes, with very rare exceptions, all children create stories.
Yeah.
They create them for themselves. They create them with their parents. They create them with each other. Let's pretend make-believe is an important, vital part of learning and growth for children everywhere, globally. But two, we are stories. Stories are the medium through which humans communicate. We learn through stories. We create stories to explain complicated ideas, to entertain ourselves, to convey knowledge. It would be impossible, I think, to accomplish anything as humanity without relying on stories to get us there. They're much more important, I think, than some people realize. The fact that we can create them together, both for fun and for enjoyment, but also for growth and learning, I think is extraordinary.
Yeah. But then also equally, it's still a novel concept. Whenever you introduce somebody new to role-playing games, they always have that moment where they realize, I really can just do anything. I really can do anything I want. There are there's rules, but they're not. It's not like a video game where like you have to in Super Mario you have to run to the right and that's it.
That's all you get to do, right? As video games become more and more sophisticated, obviously they are going to take on many of the same features as role playing games. Some of them are so sophisticated that they seem to have genuine free choice.
Yeah.
They don't, but they can give that illusion, and they're just going to get better at it. Many video games, of course, grew out of the idea of role playing games. Even the terminology is the same.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, the health bar is just hit points.
Yeah. Well, and now hit points is just like that's just a phrase now. That's a common phrase that most people, if you say it, it'll click in their brain now.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes positively and sometimes pejoratively, much of the vocabulary of role-playing games has crept into very modern discourse. Who's the main character on social media today?
Yeah.
Who's the NPC? Right? These are hit points, armor class. We're very fortunate because the idea and the popularity of role-playing games obviously has had a moment, still having a moment.
Yeah.
Exploded in popularity in recent years. And I think the cultural acceptance of them, finally, after so many decades of them being this strange little thing in the corner, didn't come a moment too soon for those of us who love them.
Yeah.
And B, I think is great because it means there's a much better chance that younger generations will discover them, enjoy them, and carry on the traditions and develop entirely new role-playing games and new ways to play them that we can't even imagine yet, which to me is really cool.
Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned like this current explosion of TTRPGs. We actually just barely got a question sent in that is very much related to that. And that is, Jason, do you feel that LA by Night and other TTRPG YouTube channels and shows have helped reinvigorate the tabletop RPG genre?
I do, very much so, for a couple of reasons, but maybe not for the reason you think.
Interesting.
I think it's actually very difficult to learn how to play a TTRPG by watching actual plays. It can be done. You can absorb a lot of information. You can learn the vocabulary. You can see how the stories are meant to be put together. You can get some great inspiration for your own games, but they aren't great instruction manuals, right? But what they can show you is how much fun it is to do this with your friends and how to do it safely and how to do it in a way where everybody gets to have fun at the table. I think that the explosion of actual play shows have helped so many people who might not have otherwise discovered tabletop RPGs see them. It's given them a lot of visibility. It's given them a lot of cultural acceptance, and it's almost a visual shorthand for the description. What's a tabletop role-playing game? Well, that's a 5-minute explanation or none. But you can also watch a 60-second clip and realize, oh, I see. Okay, here's a visual representation of what this is. And if you can get someone to watch for 5 minutes, they've got the whole concept down. They may not understand the minute details and the idiosyncrasies unique to each and every tabletop game, but the gist, the overall idea, oh, this is telling stories with your friends for fun in a very dramatic and sometimes humorous way. It's much, much easier to show people what you mean through a video than it is to try to describe a very esoteric system of role playing.
Yeah, it is. I've found it. In my life, it is hard to describe to people, but it's very easy to show people. You're absolutely right. Like someone asks, "Well, what's D&D?" and you're like, "Well, you tell stories and you roll dice for randomness, and it's a hard thing to explain to people."
It's much, much easier to hold up your phone and show, a TikTok video of Jasper from LA by Night doing some cool things at the table with friends, or to show Critical Role or or Dimension 20 or any of the hundreds of wonderful actual plays out there.
Yeah.
I think they've also helped inspire us all.
Oh, absolutely.
And share them. And of course, the accessibility of Twitch and YouTube has, made this so much easier to share with each other. It used to be really hard to find people to play with.
Yeah, now they're everywhere. There's Discords, including the Fantasy Grounds Discord. By the way, if you use Fantasy Grounds as your virtual tabletop, where you can find games constantly. All right. While I read through some of these questions sent in from chat, I've got one for you, kind of really broad now, or maybe even slightly off topic, but kind of related. Do you have a favorite vampire movie and a favorite werewolf movie?
Oh, absolutely, of course. Doesn't everyone?
I would assume everyone does, but I'm very curious what yours are.
It seems almost like it's required by law. I'm not sure that it's legal to walk around without a favorite vampire and werewolf movie. I'll start with the werewolves. Werewolves first. I think it's a slightly harder choice, but my favorite werewolf movie of all time is, I think, The Howling.
Oh, that's a really, really good choice that I don't hear very often from people.
Yeah, a little deeper cut, maybe. Yeah, it's a little dated now, although the special effects mostly hold up.
I think they hold up great.
Especially that transformation scene in the laboratory. That still scares me to watch that. That's quite disturbing, and it was way ahead of its time. But the story of the werewolves, in what they have to go through, what they endure, how they try to deal with their situation, their condition, I think still resonates today. Great story, first and foremost, that happens to be about werewolves, which is kind of cool. Vampire is a little harder because there are so many more vampire movies to choose from.
There's tons of amazing ones.
And they are. Then each one of them, I think, has something interesting in it to recommend it. And then I think my answer to the question can vary depending on time of year, phase of the moon, emotional state of mind. It's often easier to pick more than one and then narrow it down to one and one only.
Yeah.
Because once you pick one, now you're cutting out, a dozen other worthy cinematic entries as well. And so I am actually going to cheat and pick two. I go back and forth.
All right.
On this question. And the two that I generally waver between the most are Bram Stoker's Dracula and The Hunger.
Oh, you picked one I haven't seen. I have not seen The Hunger.
The Hunger is really interesting. It stars David Bowie.
Oh, yes. We were actually, you know what? We were just talking about that not long ago.
Yeah, Bowie's Vampire is pretty cool. Catherine Deneuve and David Bowie. I believe Susan Sarandon is in it as well. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me a little bit of Only Lovers Left Alive, in that it deals with the consequences of immortality. What do you really have to go through if you're going to live forever? What does that do to you? How do you relate to the world around it? How do you have to protect yourself from those who might discover your secret? And how do you keep from being lonely as an eternal creature? And I think that it's a very stylish film, I think, and I really like the themes that it presents. Bram Stoker's Dracula is just an incredible piece.
It is a visual masterpiece.
I think when you think about the fact that the director Coppola decided to do all the special effects practical, there's not a CGI, there's no computer-generated special effects in the film. He built everything.
Yeah.
Every set, everything was done practical. I think that gives it a really lovely Baroque feel to it. You can tell.
Yeah.
That everything is tactile and tangible. And of course, it's a timeless story. It's the vampire story that got me started in my interest, and the lush, gorgeous visual expression of it, the costumes, the sets, the camera angles, really holds up really well today.
Yeah, it really does. It's surprising how well that movie still holds up, and it really feels like a modern version of either the classic Universal movies or the Hammer series. It feels like a modern version of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it stands up really well. I can talk about vampire. You'll have to have me back next Halloween. We'll just talk about vampire movies.
Yeah. That's a discussion I could carry on for hours because there's so many amazing ones.
They really are.
But we'll leave it at that for now. While we, this one's probably gonna be a quick one, and it's: are there any plans to give other core lines of World of Darkness the 5th edition treatment?
I will answer that question literally and transparently, and the answer is yes.
That is exactly what I expected.
It's a one-word answer. I know you want me to talk about it in more detail, but
no,
I can't.
It's fine. It's fine. I figured there wasn't really a way for you to talk about that without like revealing stuff that I'm sure is under a million NDAs.
Yeah, I can't. Sorry. The answer is yes, absolutely. There's 2 words.
All right. Yes, absolutely. Nice. Then I'm going to throw out a question to the chat while we're sitting here, and it's
Sure.
Which core line of World of Darkness would you be most excited for?
Please let me know what chat says.
Well, we already got one like immediately before I even post a question. Actually, we got 2 before I post a question. It was Mage and Wraith.
Okay, both great choices.
Yeah. Judging by, I've asked the question a few times before on other streams while we've been promoting Werewolf, and it comes back a lot of Mage and a lot of Wraith I've been seeing.
I will say this: it's one of the things that is great about the World of Darkness as a brand. Mm-hmm. Is that we don't do just tabletop role-playing games. Of course, those are near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
For very special reasons, and I'm delighted to be doing them. I hope I never have to stop doing them. But we also, of course, are involved with video games, board games, comic books, card games, many other expressions of the World of Darkness. And sometimes you will see one of these genres or product lines in a format that's not a TTRPG first. Our very first Werewolf the Apocalypse products for the 5th edition were, in fact, video games and narrative story games. Mm-hmm. You know, Wraith has arrived in 5th edition, but it's not a TTRPG, at least not today. Its first expression in 5th edition was Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife, a virtual reality game from Fast Travel Games.
Yeah.
That is an astonishingly scary, super cool piece of virtual reality work where you play newly dead Wraith trying to figure out how you got this way. And that, that was the logical way to go into Wraith first.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we won't do a TTRPG for Wraith, but sometimes the expression comes in a different medium first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that's a great segue to this question that I was wondering if I was going to ask it because it was about the other electronic media in the World of Darkness. Yeah. But since we've already got there, we might as well answer it. And that is, CCP had to hang their attempt at a World of Darkness MMO, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is coming soon. Yes. Without breaching NDAs, can you comment on the vibrancy of the World of Darkness IP in electronic media?
Oh yeah, I don't think I have to breach any NDAs. I think you just have to look at what we've brought out into the world in the last 5 years.
That's a ton. I swear every time I open Steam, there's a new World of Darkness property.
We work with amazing partners to bring these out. When I think of narrative choice games, visual novel games, we're really spoiled for choice. We have games like Coteries of New York and Shadows of New York that paint such a gorgeous picture of undead politics. We have Heart of the Forest, which is a visual novel for Werewolf the Apocalypse, that I think does a great job of conveying the moods and the themes and the personal horror and environmental horror of being a guru. I mentioned Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife, which is a virtual reality game. We have a brand new virtual reality game for Vampire the Masquerade coming out, what is today, October 27th. What's that? In just a few days. And that's Vampire the Masquerade Justice. You play a Banu Hakim vampire parkouring your way through the nighttime streets of Venice, Italy, on a mission of justice, and that's pretty cool. We showed that at PAX West a few months ago. We let people try it for the first time. just an incredible experience to immerse yourself through virtual reality in a vampire story. We have Clans of London in development. We gave people a peek at that at PAX West 2, and that is a mobile game set in the nighttime streets of London. There are there are games that are really story-driven novels, like Night Road, in which you choose through an interactive interface a variety of options that tells the story with you as you progress through the plot. Oh my gosh, I could go on, but I don't think we've got that kind of time. Just a really rich variety, and then on the more action and mystery side, there's Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song.
Yeah,
of course. Really,
I still haven't played that one yet, but it's been on my wish list for a long time.
That's a great experience. You actually play 3 different vampires from 3 different clans, and each one of them is approaching this socio-political mystery situation from a different point of view and with different agendas. Yeah. So that there are different endings, of course. And we've talked about Werewolf, Heart of the Forest. I think Earthblood, was our very first Werewolf, the Apocalypse game for 5th edition. And, of course, now Bloodlines 2 is well along in development and releasing in fall 2024.
Yeah. That's only, honestly, that being only a year out is really impressive. Like, I've been waiting for it for a long time, and to think that, it's a next year release is crazy.
Yeah. It's really great, to be here, knowing that, in next fall, however, where the fall lands, I can't share with you right now, but next fall we're going to be playing this and talking about it.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it, as I got into World of Darkness through Bloodlines 1. So.
Oh yes, of course, classic.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people probably got introduced to it through that game.
I think that's safe to say.
So, all right, let's go back to kind of the storyteller side of things. I know that a lot of people want to hear about stuff about being a storyteller and all of that. So question number 1 is, as a storyteller, what is something that you wish you were better at?
Memorization. I have a terrible short-term memory. I always have my whole life. I remember books I wrote for other role-playing games in great detail from 20 years ago. I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. It's just a gift I don't possess. Yeah. So I have to write things down. I have to take careful notes about what happens if I'm running an actual play like New York by Night or Seattle by Night. I will go back and rewatch the episodes so that I can remember what happened and write down details so that things are consistent.
I'm really glad I'm not the only one that does that.
No, I can't. Unfortunately, I just don't have that kind of recall. I don't memorize rules easily. I do have to look rules up, or I have a cheat sheet or more than one, or a storyteller screen that I reference so that I make sure that I try to be consistent. When I can't, I make a ruling and move on, right? Sometimes you want to abrogate the rules to keep the story flowing. The rule of cool, of course. But yeah, I wish I was better at memorization.
All right. I think that's one of those things that it's really hard to actually get better at, but I feel like a lot of us have a similar issue. At least I do. I know I'm in the same boat where I will forget the last session. At least parts, I'll remember some parts of it, but I won't remember all the details, and I will have to go back and rewatch my last stream.
I think one of the greatest gifts players can give us game masters is taking notes and remembering what's going on. I'm always so grateful when I can ask a player, so who wants to give the recap of last episode? And we don't have to rely on my faulty memory.
Yeah, that's why I on my own actual play, I basically make the players do the recap. I'm like, no, it's on you. We've been doing 5e, so I basically tell them I will give you inspiration D&D 5e. I'll tell them, I'll give you inspiration if you can give the recap, and if you don't, I'm going to give myself it if I have to do the recap. And that every time.
Yeah, I play a fair amount of 5e myself, so that's a great idea. I may steal your.
Yeah, it's a good one. It really makes them go, oh, I need to do this, because I don't want the dungeon master to be able to just make his roll better at any time. All right. Another question from chat. I've watched LA by Night and New York by Night on repeat a lot. My question is, how do you write such amazing intros? The level of detail, the mastery of language, the mood, setting of the city. It's incredible. Do you have a method you use?
It's a great question, and I wish I had a great answer for you. I wish I could give you some awesome esoteric secrets, some arcane truth that will help. I love to read. I love stories. I try to pay attention to things that capture my interest. And I guess, as weird as it may sound, when I'm writing these things, I try to be in that moment. I try to imagine it, visualize it, hear myself, and think about what is the message I want to get out to players and to our audience, our viewers. If I were in the audience, what would I need to hear in order to imagine the world in my head? I don't have a better answer, though. I'm sorry.
No, it's fair. I think reading is important, especially both literature and stories that are similar to what you're going to run. Obviously, read Dracula and Interview with the Vampire and all of those classics, but also stuff that's wildly different as well.
Very, very different. I think if they're a writer, some of the writers have had the most influence on how I write my prologues are probably mystery and thriller writers like James Ellroy.
All right. No, that makes sense. That is kind of the feel that they give. Is like an intro to a mystery thriller.
McCarthy, I think, is another great example of how they write. And to go back further, writers like Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, they're writing mysteries and thrillers and espionage stories. John Le Carre, or is it Carre? I'm never sure.
I don't know.
The way they write exposition and the way they introduce their worlds really resonated with me from a young age, still does. And I think it's their voices that I hear in my head when I'm writing these things.
All right.
What's a vampire story if not, it's really an espionage story.
Yeah,
and
it's
really a mafia story. And it's really a political story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just with vampires is the kind of overlay set dressing on top of that.
In many ways, I think that all World of Darkness games have media equivalents. Yeah. In their default form, right? I think you could say that the an Anarch focused game in Vampire is really it's The Wire, but with vampires on it. And Wire meets Sopranos with vampires. And a Camarilla story is probably, it's this weird blood opera kind of thing. So it's more like The Godfather meets Eyes Wide Shut with vampires.
Now that is an image for your head.
I've thought of the Camarilla ever since we started on 5th edition. In my head, that's what the Camarilla is. Isn't that horrible? What a horrible organization. Nobody should want to make these people your enemy.
No, not at all. We are almost out of time or right at the end of our time. I've got one final question for you. This is one that I've been myself pondering a bit. And it's obviously a lot of us as storytellers or people that are just into TTRPGs will use things like music and stuff like that to get into the mood and the theme. What are some musical choices that you use to immerse yourself into the world of darkness?
Depends on, I think my battery must be fading and the light seems to be going in and out. Or that or something terrible is about to happen and the screen's going to go black.
Yeah, you're in violation of the masquerade and the Camarilla are coming.
it wouldn't be the first time. I love soundtracks. I like soundtracks to my favorite films and TV shows and video games. I find it hard to write if there are lyrics.
Okay.
I find it distracting in my head. I don't know why. So I listen to a lot of ambient music that way. I'll make playlists. I like lo-fi a lot.
All right. I don't know. I think that's really, really, really interesting. Everyone really does have just like a completely different take on it.
Yeah.
I know mine is like 90s and 2000s, like industrial metal and EDM and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think that's all good inspiration for vampires.
Yeah.
I find music, all kinds of music, is inspirational for many different kinds of story, but I don't think I can pin down a single genre that influences my RPG work.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be all the time we have today.
Right.
So first off, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
My pleasure, and thank you for a very fun hour. That went fast.
It did. It went so fast. I swear I blinked and then I looked down and it said 1 p.m. and I went,
Wow.
oh.
We'll just have to do it again.
Yeah. So next, you got anything you want to plug or tell people about before we close it out?
I think the other thing I'll mention in the next couple of minutes, because I do have to be on my way too, just as you do, is that next week on Halloween, the long-awaited return of Seattle by Night happens at 5 p.m. Pacific on the Penny Arcade Twitch channel. We just wrapped up shooting and filming it just a few days ago in Seattle with Mike and Jerry from Penny Arcade, also Jasmine, that bronze ghoul, bronze girl. Did I say bronze ghoul? Mm-hmm. She's going to find out about this. I just know it. Appropriate to the spooky season, maybe. And Luis Carrazzo is also playing, and our coterie continues their personal goal of trying to get accepted into the Camarilla of Seattle. The great thing about this season is that even more than first season, this is a direct prelude to the events of Bloodlines 2.
Oh, because, all right.
As you may know, Bloodlines 2 is set in Seattle also. That's the city. So since we're all going to play Bloodlines 2, and we're all curious about what's going to happen in that video game, it might be a good idea to watch Seattle by Night and take a few notes.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you everyone for coming out. Everyone give Jason some big thanks for coming and talking to us once again.
Thank you.
It's incredible to get here to sit down and talk to you. I just want to quickly plug before I click the end button, and that is this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I will be running a Call of Cthulhu one-shot set in a haunted hospital, of which that I actually work at and run a haunted attraction out of, but where it's actually a haunted hospital, and I've written a whole homebrewed one-shot for Call of Cthulhu in there, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Come by and check that out.
I do love that game.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. Nice and scary in the best way possible.
Yes. All
right. Well, thank you. We're gonna be done. I'm sure Paulette's gonna go raid somebody, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.